Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower for Author Magazine, and we're here at the Seattle Public Library with Gregory Martin, author of his memoir, Stories for Boys. Gregory, welcome to Author.
Thanks.
First of all, congratulations, not just on the publication of the book, but you're here in Seattle because you've been selected to be, I don't know what we call it, the Seattle Reads. You're being read by all of Seattle.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thanks for having me.
What does it mean to you that your book is selected and now this citywide attention to it?
I could say all kinds of different things, but I think one of the first things I would say is that I've been doing these events at these different branches all over town. And I was in Ballard Wednesday night, and there were somewhere from 60 to 80 people at this event.
Wow.
Every single one of them had already read the book.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, I mean, it never happens.
Right.
You know, like usually you're like almost like Willy Loman with your suitcase,
Yes.
kind of wandering around trying to get people to maybe buy 2 or 3 copies.
Yeah.
And that's because the book tour is usually set up right after the book gets published.
Right.
And so you go around and you're trying to get some buzz generated. And really, you do want people to buy the book. And here, they've either bought the book, or the Seattle Public Library or the Seattle Public Library Foundation has given them the book.
Yeah.
All these book clubs have the book already. They've read it. They've already talked about it with one another, and they roll in. And I only read for like 3 to 5 minutes, and we're talking, and we talk for an hour, and it's the fastest hour.
How nice for you to be able just to have
Yeah.
the discussion, because that's what you really want,
Right.
isn't it? You're filled up with all that it means to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that as an author, you're always battling imposter syndrome. You're always battling, am I any good? Is the book making an impact? And I get to leave this week and these conversations, and for a little while anyway, I can put that question aside because I've heard from so many different people. I really appreciated your book in all these different ways. Over the last several days, so many people have come up to me and they've said, an elderly man came up to me in the Capitol Hill branch the other day, and he said, I came out to my 2 daughters when I was 70, and they're still not talking to me. And I have my cousin, he's gonna send them your book, and maybe that will start something.
Let's now speak a little to those people who may not actually
Sure.
have read it.
Yeah.
Your book is about the revelation that your father, how old was he when he tried to kill himself?
66.
66, because he came out to your mother that he
Yeah.
had been gay for 40 years, that he'd been molested by his
Right.
father,
Right.
and that he'd had numerous,
Right.
beyond numerous,
Yeah.
anonymous sexual relationships with men.
Right.
And so this book is the fallout from that
Yeah.
experience and how that changed you.
Right, it's about the aftermath of learning all those things. It asks questions that anyone would ask when they feel like they knew someone, and then they're thinking to themselves, I thought I knew you. It's also asked questions about what do family secrets do? What kind of pain do they cause when they are revealed, and how do people work through them and past them? And it's also about memory itself and how anytime something changes in the present, especially something as dramatic as this, then you go back through the past, and the past isn't the same anymore. It's a different past. And the memories become reconfigured, reconstructed. Memories that weren't as important before suddenly take on value over other memories that you probably would prefer to hold on to over these new memories. And so it's about that. It's also about trying to figure out how to share this story of my father's revelation that he's gay, revelation that he's an incest survivor, with my 2 young sons, who were 7 and 4 at the time that all of this happened. And I didn't have the language at all or the understanding to communicate to them why I was so sad. It was so hard for me to separate the fact that he was gay, which I really did want to communicate to them, from things like the fact that he was an incest survivor, from the fact that he'd had all these anonymous affairs in the most difficult places for me to reckon with, like under bridges, rest areas out on the interstate.
You know, one of the great challenges, we were talking earlier, I just finished a memoir, and one of the great challenges is you have so much.
Right.
You got your whole damn life.
Yes.
Really? Because
Yes.
this really could be your entire life, because he
Yes.
was there for all of it.
Yeah.
And it's saying, I've got to winnow it down to share
Right.
one thing, really. You want to try and make it as little as not try and make it the entire universe.
Right. Yeah, you, rather than aim for breadth, you aim for depth.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I keep in the back of my mind, and as a teacher, I'm always kind of reciting to the students by Georgia O'Keeffe, and she says that nothing is less real than realism. It's only by selection and elimination and emphasis that we get to the real nature of things.
Yeah.
And so I had to make choices, particularly about my mother's characterization. She was betrayed, she was wronged. This was very hard for her. It was very painful to watch her go through that. But at the same time, I really wanted to focus on my father's story and the story of my sons.
All right, so speaking of teaching,
Yeah.
what is the thing I can't prepare myself for that you wished you had been prepared for when you went out to the world to talk to people about this, such a private thing?
Yeah.
Because mine is pretty private as well.
You know, I don't really know what it is like to not publish a memoir. My first book is a family memoir.
Right.
This is a family memoir. It is more personal. But I'm used to people coming up to me and feeling like they know me. And I want them to feel that way. But I also know that there's so much that I've left out, so many things that I haven't told them so that they could focus on this. You go on book tour with a memoir and people aren't really interested in what are the, the craft elements. They are not so interested in talking to you about the narrative construction. They really want to talk about the people in your book and what are they doing now, and what their lives are now.
Oh, really?
How has the book affected them?
Okay.
What is for instance, with my father, what does he think of the book? Do people come up and talk to him?
Right.
And I kind of feel like one of the things that you do when you write a memoir is you offer yourself to the reader in this limited way, not in a complete way, and you say, this is all on the table. You can ask me about these things. And it might be hard. There hasn't really been a reading so far, an event in Seattle so far, where someone hasn't had tears in their eyes.
Wow.
And I've been teaching memoir for 12 years now, and I'm used to it, but the stakes are really high. There's no veil.
Just one more question for you, Greg.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to finish this sentence for me. Yeah. If writing has taught me anything at all, it has taught me what?
Humility.
A common one. And how has
Yeah.
it taught you humility?
So my first book was published when I was 29, and it was a New York Times notable book, and it did really well. And I'd only been out of my MFA program for about 3 years. And I just thought, well, okay, it's going to be like this.
Right.
Yeah. And isn't it nice? And I worked on a novel for 3 or 4 years, and that novel was rejected by every publisher in New York City. And then I worked on it for 18 more months, thinking, okay, that was a blow, but I know how this goes. And I submitted it again, same novel, better. Every publisher in New York City still said, I don't think so. And I had to kind of weather that, that disappointment and that despair and that feeling like, well, I had it at one point and I guess I lost it. And then get up the next day and write and turn to another subject. And I guess the thing that I would say is that I've come to understand that the psychological mastery, the emotional mastery, is much harder to navigate than the craft mastery. Yeah.
That stuff is child's play, really,
Yeah.
compared to that, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Writing technique is widely available. You can learn it.
Yeah.
And the ability to have staying power is really hard.
Yeah.
It's another skill.